This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our exclusive multi-state cannabis operator sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's top vertically integrated medical and wellness cannabis operators. With 53 local dispensaries, 15 cultivation sites, and 24 processing facilities operating in 14 states. You can learn more about Curaleaf over at curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled Curaleaf. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, February 5th, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 880 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. The Green Market Report has our day's top story with a pickup of an interesting report by Matt Carnes and his team over at Green Wave Advisors that finds that the federal tax code 280E, which prevents legal marijuana businesses from taking normal business-related tax deductions enjoyed by other businesses, is having an enormous negative impact on the ability of our industry's largest operators to operate profitably. I should drop a quick bit of disclosure on this one, as I became friends with Matt after we met on a panel discussion I moderated a few years back at a conference. Matt's report looks at legal marijuana companies with market caps north of $500 million, which I should also disclose includes our sponsor Curaleaf. This overall storyline that tax restrictions impacts the abilities of companies to profit is obvious here, but it's fantastic to have some numbers to back up the thesis that there is a sizable spring of profits ready to be unsprung just as soon as the feds get around to eliminating 280E. Not a bad one to read in full. Marijuana Moment follows up on the just-announced pledge by Vermont Senator and presidential candidate Bernie Sanders to legalize marijuana on the first day of office, should he be elected president, with an in-depth look at how he could actually do that. This is an excellent dive into the subject that includes insight from John Hudak over at the Brookings Institute, and is another one that you should read in full, as it nicely covers some of the actual mechanisms for how to legalize adult use cannabis, including how to change policy on the international stage. The short story here is that in reality, it's going to take a lot longer than a single day to actually legalize marijuana, but Senator Sanders' pledge is a helpful bit of messaging to rally around. We jump up to Canada for our final top story today, as licensed producer Tilray just announced that it will be laying off 10% of its staff as it seeks to trim its bottom line to attain profitability. Tilray currently employs just over 1,400 people, so that'll leave 140 so jobs to be cut, with Tilray releasing no details as to how those layoffs will fall across the company. This comes after a rough recent quarter in which Tilray lost $35.7 million US amid a bevy of other licensed Canadian producers also seeing large losses. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's top multi-state cannabis operators with 53 local dispensaries, 15 cultivation sites, and 24 processing facilities operating in 14 states. Everyone over at Curaleaf is celebrating this week their just announced closing of their acquisition of Cura Partners, which brings the select brand of products into the Curaleaf family. That expands Curaleaf's reach out west and means more people will be able to experience the Curaleaf difference. The acquisition also means a lot of super stellar new talent is joining the team at Curaleaf, all of which you can read about over at ir.curaleaf.com, where Curaleaf has all of their investor relation materials. That's ir.curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled Curaleaf. While you're over there, you can read up about Curaleaf, the stock, traded up on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol CURA. Big thanks to everyone at Curaleaf for helping us keep the news lights on. All right, time for the Blitz. 3 medical marijuana companies in New Jersey just got the nod to open up new grow facilities, with Columbia Care NJ, MPX NJ, and Verano all being awarded cultivation licenses. That brings the total number of licensed cultivators in the Garden State to 11. Once the 3 companies get their cultivation sites up, they will then each apply for a licensed dispensary where they can sell their wares. There are now 67,644 registered patients in New Jersey's medical cannabis program. Maggie Cowie over Marijuana Business Daily takes a look at the recent report issued by one of our sponsors, Ease, that examines the build of the California delivery company's customer base, finding that the growth of women cannabis consumers has been particularly strong over the last few years. In 2015, women made up just 25% of Ease's user base, while last year it grew to 40%. The representation of women consumers across generational lines saw the highest participation by baby boomer women and Gen Z at 46% and 40% respectively, with my own generation, Gen X, falling behind at just 35%. If your business could improve with you having a better handle on the makeup of the modern cannabis consumer market, this is another one you should read in full. Yesterday in Minnesota, top state lawmakers held a press conference and announced that they would be moving soon to introduce legislation to legalize adult use marijuana. House Majority Leader Ryan Winkler and Senator Jeff Hayden said they had talked to people all over their state and come to the conclusion that marijuana legalization is good policy. In a press conference accompanying the announcement, Winkler wrote, quote, "By creating a regulatory framework, we can address the harms caused by cannabis and establish a more sensible set of laws to improve our healthcare and criminal justice systems and ensure better outcomes for communities," unquote. Any legalization bill in Minnesota does face the daunting prospects of a trip through the Republican-controlled Senate, though, which is full of regressionist prohibitionists who are perfectly fine ignoring science, sound policy, and public sentiment. So we'll see how this one rolls. As California continues to work out a transition to a fully legal adult use market, one of the difficult problems seen throughout the state, as well as in many others nationwide, is how to best implement working social equity programs in a way that affects real positive change for people from affected communities. Marijuana Business Daily takes a peek at how the city of Sacramento, California is doing it with a program called the Cannabis Opportunity and Reinvestment Program, or CORE, that helps people with drug charges on their records or who are from places that received inordinate policing for marijuana crimes to get help entering the legal cannabis market. The folks behind the CORE program have a goal of eventually placing half of their graduates into the licensed local market. If social equity is on your radar, this is a good one to take a look at. The Caribbean island nation of Trinidad and Tobago is holding open a window for businesses to submit comments on a proposed medical marijuana law. The Cannabis Control Bill of 2019 is being considered by the nation's House of Representatives and would need to be voted through twice to become law, once following the current comment period, which ends on February 14th, and then again following that vote. You can click over to Marijuana Business Daily for more here and to click through to the bill's language itself. Kyle Yeager over Marijuana Moment has another story on the day as the investigative team over there turned up a document that appears to be from the U.S. government, in which a discussion is had over the danger that international moves to deschedule marijuana could bolster domestic efforts here in the States to legalize cannabis at the federal level. The discussion centers around a planned vote by the World Health Organization that was originally scheduled for last year, but that was delayed and that could happen next month. Marijuana Moment hasn't been able to independently verify this one yet, but the overall tone of the argument does match perfectly the position generally held by the federal government, especially over the last few years. Another good one to toss on the list to read today. Chris Moore over Mary Jane takes us out today with an interesting article up about a new study suggesting that the use of psychedelic drugs like LSD and mushrooms can help people use less drugs like alcohol and opioids. The study, recently published in Frontiers in Psychiatry Journal, relies on a survey asking people about their past substance use, focusing in particular on whether and when people ever had drug problems with opioids and alcohol, and if those problems ever got better after having psychedelic experiences. Keeping in mind that this is a study based on self-reported data, the results show that just under 80% of all respondents met the criteria of severe substance abuse before taking a psychedelic drug, but that just 27% did afterward, as they changed up their behavior after their hallucinogenic trip. This is pretty remarkable and points to something that needs a lot more study. Not a bad one to read. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Curaleaf, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.